My name is Tom Dyckhoff. I'm an architecture and design historian, and I'm presenter of BBC Two's Great Interior Design Challenge. One of the key kind of trends that we're seeing, an awful lot of it was all over the Milan Furniture Fair this year, is Memphis, which was a design group that was formed in the very early 80s, but a lot of their influences came from the 1970s. You know, people like Ettore Sottsass, a great Italian designer. It was all about creating really rich, beautiful, sensual shapes, bright, bold colours and patterns. You know, he came to fruition, I suppose, in the early 80s, but I think almost his greatest designs were seen in the 1970s. And it wasn't a kind of nostalgic, it wasn't a nostalgic approach at the time. It was a very futuristic, very modern, very sexy kind of design. The late 1950s as well, that was a time when, you know, in this country, in Britain, we were moving from that period of austerity in the early part of ration books when people just didn't have anything. You know, they didn't have any money to spend, they didn't have any materials to buy. In the late 1950s, Britain was beginning to have some money in its pocket, to begin to experience rock and roll, to begin to experience the consumer boom that had already happened in America. You know, we were suddenly flooded with imports from American designers. We were beginning to see for the first time the futuristic designs of people like Charles and Ray Eames. In both periods, the space race was on. The space race was on in the late 50s, the space race was on after the moon landings. It was a time when we were kind of thinking about the future again. And I think we're beginning to think about that again now. You know, in Britain at the moment, we have been through the last 5 to 7 years of economic change, massive changes in technology. We've been through a coalition government. We've been through a period of great deal of uncertainty. That kind of retrenchment and that look to nostalgia that we saw in the kind of the years after the economic recession are beginning to balance out again and become a lot more optimistic again, I think. The mid-century style has dominated interior design for quite a long time. I mean, probably since the mid-90s when Wallpaper magazine came along. But since then, our knowledge of mid-century has developed and become richer. We know there are different types of modernism. And I think the latest trends for us to kind of really embrace is this kind of opulent mid-century. We're very used to that kind of pared down, very plain mid-century style. I think now we're seeing coming through a lot of kind of opulence, a lot of kind of tactility. So what I was really fascinated with, you know, creating the brief for this was to take that kind of mid-century baseline of, I guess, geometric form, plainness, an interest in texture, but to add a layer of opulence and optimism and almost futurism on top of that. You know, embrace curved forms, embrace texture, embrace opulent materials as well. You know, people want to be surrounded by luxury, again, if they can afford it, as much luxury as they can afford. So they don't just want things, you know, minimalist and plain anymore. They want that as a kind of, that creates a great sort of bedrock for a design, but people want to lay on top of that texture, warmth, pattern, excitement, I suppose. That's what we're seeing.